Hi, I'm Rich Melheim, and today we're on the Warner Brothers lot. I've started a dissertation on the concept of meaning, and since Last of the Mohicans was one of my favorite films of all time, I thought it would be fun to talk to Hunt about what makes for a meaningful film. And with all the scripts you read, why do you choose what you choose, and then the components that go in. And then we'll get philosophical toward the end and ask about what is meaning. But first, I'd like to know what makes a meaningful film.
Something that moves you. If it has meaning, you have to be moved by it. Does it hit that chord? Does it move you? Does it make you laugh or cry or think or preferably all those things? Does it tell a story, an interesting story, a unique story helps because you don't want to make something. You can always retell a good story, but you are looking for something new and inventive. Either if it's an old story, a new way to tell it, or if it's something that you just haven't seen before or told that way. Do the characters work? Do they have an arc? Are you with the characters? And that it does, that's what moves you. You want them to be fluid. Obviously, you're very involved with the director on that too, and the director is very involved, but you don't want anything to stick out. If you have a nice car and it's got color and comfort and an interior and an exterior and a hood and a trunk and doors, but if it's not fluid or if something sticks out or is incongruous, that's even worse on a movie. Because if it sticks out or doesn't ring true, then the audience starts thinking about the movie or about getting home and paying the babysitter or about their work they have tomorrow and all that. And that's not worth, when you see a movie or when you're giving someone a journey of a film, that's not fair to the audience. They're supposed to be able to relax, forget about what goes on outside that theater for a couple hours and go on a story with the characters. And if they don't go on that story, if you make a mistake, whether it be at a weak script moment or whatever, just something that didn't.
Or as they see the Toyota drive behind the
exactly the Toyota drive behind the horse in a western. They know that something's not right about that, and even it takes you out for a second. You just don't want them to do that because again, once it does, you start thinking about reality, and you can go to a movie, even if it's a true story. You can escape. You can jump into the reality of the characters of the film, and you don't. And that's what you get as a filmmaker, as a film producer, anyone that works on a movie. All the components. You just want to bring them in deeper and deeper into the good story and tell it the best way you know how and entertain and move your audience.
When you say the word entertain, I think of how you break that apart, and the Latin is an, in, ter is territory, it's their terrarium, it's their land, and tain is to hold, contain, retain. A fountain holds the font. So you're trying to get into their land, into their world, into their mind and hold them.
And bring them into yours. Bring them into that story. Absolutely. Hold them is very key. Bring them in. Bring them in. And keep them in. Pretty easy to bring them in because they're in the movie theater, they're watching something, they're going to invest, they're going to give you their concentration, their time for the first act. They should, even if it's a bad first act, they're going to stick with it easier. But then if you don't pay off, or if you have a weak second act, or you don't go anywhere, the characters are going right turns and left turns, and two things can happen. The audience can get lost, which is bad. And then you've made it, once they get lost, they're going to quit trying after a while. They're going to start thinking about other things. And another thing, you'll be very careful. The audience can get ahead of a movie, and that may be just as bad or worse if they get ahead of a movie, if they figured it out, if you've told the story too simply, or given too many. What's the hints or examples, and like, I got it already, I got it, So you don't want, it's not, the movie doesn't have to be a whole mystery to the audience, but you don't want, you need to at least want them to be interested in using their brain, or more important, not their brain, more their emotions, and their feeling, to keep up with the movie. The audience shouldn't be ahead of the movie. They didn't write it. They haven't seen the rough cuts. It's got to be a journey for them. And if you know the end of the journey, and it can even be a simple story, but if you still, and it doesn't have to be that they've figured out the whole ending, but if they figure out like what's going to happen next. Well, oh yeah, he's going to do this and he's going to do that. Then you've not done a good job as a filmmaker.
So when you said deep, 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 and then you used the word brain, you do have to get beyond the.
Yeah, you obviously it's not real. It's not happening. It's a movie. It's not. But if you just use your brain, you wouldn't cry at a scene that you should cry at, or at least feel strong emotions. You wouldn't be afraid or laugh at a scene that was funny, because obviously there can be smart movies, and the best movies are very smart, but it's more of an emotional feeling experience than a cerebral experience. It can be a cerebral experience afterwards when you write about it in a classroom, or if you're a critic, or if you want to have a discussion, after the movie theater, then it can be. But during the time, it needs to be a moving experience that takes you out of the reality you're in and puts you into the reality that our character's in, which really ain't a reality because it's made up, it's make believe, but you want to throw them in there and let them go on the journey.
Well, let's get philosophical for a moment.
Okay.
I'm working on meaning. What is meaning?
It's more than one thing. It's a feeling. It's an emotion. It's a heartstring. It can be a set of rules. It's kind of what keeps us going, I think, in a big way. Because, what do you mean to me, or what does a relationship mean to the husband and wife? What does a relationship mean to the kids? Meaning in the office place, your spiritual meaning. Meaning is something to me that ties a whole lot of beliefs, faith, emotions, and actions and thoughts together.
And so how do you make significant meaning?
I think you make significant meaning by having great communication and great articulation of it. If you don't articulate it well and explain it well, and I think the way to do that is to understand it. The best way to make a great film, to get back onto that, is for the director and the writer and the producer and the people really get the film. The team making the film, the studio, everyone, they're on the same page. There's a little expression is, you go into a meeting, you're making 5 different movies. One person's got one idea, the director's got an idea, the producer's got an idea, the writer's got an idea. It's like, guys, that's going to be a camel. You gotta have, So meaning has to be understood, has to be clear, has to be explained properly,